Namaskar, good evening. You're watching the Newshour Agenda and I'm Swati Joshi. Marking a big step towards one nation, one poll plan, the Union Cabinet has approved proposal to hold simultaneous elections in the country as recommended by former President Ram Nath Kovind led committee. Shortly after the cabinet nod, Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav shed more light on the proposal, saying elections would be held in two phases. In the first phase, Lok Sabha elections and assembly elections will be held simultaneously, and within 100 days, local body elections will be conducted in the second phase.
High-level committee recommendations on one nation, one election, on simultaneous elections, those recommendations have been accepted today by the Union Cabinet. इसका implementation दो phases में होगा. First phase में लोकसभा और assemblies के elections को simultaneous कराने का प्रयास होगा. और उसके second phase में local body elections को within 100 days of general elections में करवाना, जिससे कि एक बार में सारे election का process complete हो. 1999 में लॉ कमीशन ने अपनी 170th रिपोर्ट में रिकमेंड किया था कि वन इलेक्शन टू लोकसभा एंड ऑल लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबलीज इन 5 years होना चाहिए, जिससे कि देश में डेवलपमेंट चलता रहे. जो बहुत सारा खर्चा होता है इलेक्शंस के कारण वो ना हो. बहुत सारा लॉ एंड ऑर्डर और क्रिमिनल जस्टिस सिस्टम जो बाधित हो जाता है, बिकॉज पुलिसमैन आर टोटली डिप्लॉयड इन मेंटेनिंग द इलेक्शन लॉ एंड ऑर्डर, वो सब जो बड़ा एक बहुत बड़ा एक डिसरप्शन रहता है वो ना हो.
Notably, the Union Cabinet accepted panel's recommendation a day after Union Home Minister Amit Shah said that the implementation of one nation, one election will happen in this very tenure of the Modi government. Hailing ONOP as a landmark electoral reform, Shah took to X to say the move reflects Prime Minister Modi's iron will to bolster our democracy. In his Independence Day address last month, the Prime Minister also pitched for one nation, one election, saying frequent elections in the country were slowing down the pace of development.
देश में व्यापक चर्चा हुई है. सभी राजनीतिक दलों ने अपने विचार रखे हैं. एक कमेटी ने बहुत बढ़िया अपना रिपोर्ट तैयार किया है. वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के लिए देश को आगे आना होगा. मैं लाल किले से तिरंगे की साक्षी में देश के राजनीतिक दलों से आग्रह करता हूं, देश के संविधान को समझने वाले लोगों से आग्रह करता हूं कि भारत की प्रगति के लिए, भारत के संसाधनों का सर्वाधिक उपयोग जन सामान्य के लिए हो, इसके लिए वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन के सपने को साकार करने के लिए हमें आगे आना चाहिए.
वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन, उसको लेकर क्या योजना है और कब तक इसको लागू किए जाने की संभावना?
इसी सरकार के कार्यकाल में वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन हम लागू करेंगे.
Now, the opposition is once again up in arms, questioning the government's one nation, one election push on multiple counts, from calling it impractical to claiming that it is another attempt by the government to divert attention from its failure, to alleging that the move destroys federalism and is a ploy to finish off regional parties. The opposition parties rained fire on the government. But interestingly, some opposition parties appeared to have a change of heart. BSP, which had opposed the move in its submission to the Kovind panel, made a U-turn with party chief Mayawati now saying the party is in favor of one nation, one poll. Samajwadi Party, which had said no to ONOP in its submission to the high-level panel, appears confused. While party leader Ravidas Mehrotra said SP wants simultaneous polls, Akhilesh took potshots at the BJP government over the move. Let's listen into how other opposition parties targeted the government.
ये प्रैक्टिकल नहीं है और ये चलने वाला नहीं है. ये सिर्फ चुनाव जब आते कोई ना कोई कुछ मुद्दा नहीं मिल रहा उनको, ऐसी चीजें बात करने के लिए, इश्यू को डाइवर्ट करने के लिए वो बात करते हैं. और इसीलिए और पूरे देश के लोग कोई मानने वाले भी नहीं है.
एक स्टेट का एक टेन्योर होता है असेंबली का, आप कैसे कटल करेंगे उसको? कर्नाटका का इलेक्शन आप बोलेंगे 29 में करा दो, उनका तो पहले इलेक्शन होना चाहिए कर्नाटका का. आप कौन होते भाई? स्टेट की जनता का आप क्यों छीन रहे हैं?
ऑल गिमिक्स। वो रिग करना चाहते हैं इलेक्शन, डिलिमिटेशन से जब नहीं होता तो वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन का बोलते हैं। बीजेपी से हजम नहीं हो पा रहा है कि उनके जो जमीन, उनकी जो पैर तले जमीन है वो खिसक रही है, तो हर एक चीज में उनको प्री रिगिंग करनी है। अब डिलिमिटेशन भी प्री रिगिंग था, वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन इज ऑल्सो वे टू रिग द इलेक्शन।
वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन इस सरकार का पुनः एक ऐसा ऑब्सेशन है जिसकी जड़ें कहीं नहीं है, सिर्फ इसमें कि डाइग्रेशन हो, कुछ दिन हेडलाइन मैनेजमेंट हो, चर्चा हो, क्योंकि आपके पास इस तरह की कंटिजेंसीज के लिए क्या प्रावधान है, nobody knows.
So while the government says it's a massive electoral reform, the opposition is calling it a gimmick, a jumla, a way to destroy federalism. Let's take you through the arguments for and against one nation, one poll. Arguments for say that there'll be consistency and continuity in governance that will not be disrupted with continuous elections. The fact that India is always in election mode. Arguments against say that there'll be a burden on forces to secure 7 lakh polling stations. There'll be additional burden on the forces. Reduces burden on finances and manpower. Remember, the panel itself said that it is going to save resources and spur development. The arguments against say advantage for national parties at state and center because the assembly elections will coincide with that of the Lok Sabha election. Simultaneous elections will take place. The arguments for ONOP say till 1967, India always had simultaneous polls. So from 1951 to 1967, we had a system where simultaneous elections were held. Arguments against. Coordination between the states and center will be difficult. Curb poll corruption and black money. That is one of the arguments for ONOP. Another argument which is against ONOP says national issues will take precedence over the local one. So these are the arguments for and against ONOP.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's open this up. Let's go across to our guests. We're joined by Siddharth Yadav, spokesperson of the BJP. We have Deepak Reddy, national spokesperson, TDP. Professor Vineet Singh, spokesperson, LJPR. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, political analyst. Dr. Riju Datta, national spokesperson of the TMC. And Advocate Adil Hassan, national spokesperson of the AIMIM. I want to begin with you, Riju Datta. How is this a distraction? How is it that this will destroy federalism?
Look, I'll be very blunt. It is a cheap anti-democratic stunt by the BJP. It's a classic Mr. Modi, Mr. Shah Jumla, and it is a weapon for mass distraction. Just to take, see, on a prime time show, on a platform like Times Now, I wanted to discuss women's safety. I would have loved to discuss unemployment. I would have loved to discuss what is happening in the country, the economic issues. But what are we discussing? One nation, one policy, which is never going to happen. You have to pass it in the parliament. Then
when issues like women's safety were discussed and the Kolkata incident was discussed and questions were posed to the West Bengal government, that's when the allegation was that there's a narrative being built. Please go ahead and give your comments on the issue at hand.
I am just categorically saying these BJP can give only big dialogues. Why couldn't they hold Maharashtra, Haryana and Jammu Kashmir elections together? Maharashtra and Haryana is ruled by them. अरे अपने 3 राज्यों में आप इलेक्शन नहीं करा पा रहे हो. You will do elections all over the country at the same time. This is just a ploy to somehow put pressure on the regional parties. You have to understand, from the Nehruvian time till now, the politics have gone 180 degrees. Now it is regional polity which determine who will rule the country. How can you implement this? It is a gimmick, just like the women reservation bill.
Highlighted the Nehruvian era, because it was in the Nehruvian era from 1951 to 1967 that simultaneous polls were held. So it was not a weapon of mass distraction back then, but it is now.
How many parties were there? How many parties were there then, Swati? How many parties? And how many parties are there now? Narendra Modi ji is the Prime Minister of India because of Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu. Regional parties. The India alliance is functioning strongly because of presence of Samajwadi Party.
And do you think those regional parties, and do you think those regional parties are not worried that this is going to end federalism? Or only a handful of parties believe that this will end federalism?
I don't know who believes, but I will only say this. This is not going to happen. This is just distracting the public. It's another jumla by
Okay, Siddharth Yadav, please do respond.
Nothing else.
This is not an electoral reform according to Riju Datta and others who are opposing it. They are saying this is a weapon of mass distraction.
See, I think it is the compulsions of Riju Datta to come and say anything and everything that he feels like on anything which can, do betterment for the country. It is his compulsion, I say this, and I take all every responsibility. He will question why are we discussing this. He will question the channel. He will question the response of the government. He will question the discussion, the decision of the government. He will question everything because he wants, in his dictatorial style of Mamta Didi, only the things that concern them and can benefit them should be discussed. Now, today in a sane democracy, in a mature democracy, should we not be, when such wide consultations are happening, should we not be inviting real-time, suggestions and challenges that should be discussed on television?
But have these wider consultations been held with the opposition parties?
We are talking about...
One answer can I give?
Yes, absolutely. So 62 parties were consulted. 162 parties were consulted in this process. More than 40 responded. Out of them, 32, more than the majority mark, have given their assent to the one nation, one election. 18,000, more than 18,000.
And those parties parties that have given their assent include regional parties. They include regional parties as well.
Every party.
Absolutely. Right. Why I'm asking that is because...
Obviously, we have only 7...
Why I'm asking that is because, and I would bring in Adil Hassan. Adil Hassan, Mr. Riju Datta just said, and Mr. Owaisi has also said, this is a bid to destroy.
I'll just take 10 seconds to...
I'll come back to you. This is a bid to destroy federalism. And if that's what the government intended to do, shouldn't they have done this when they had absolute majority? Because according to you, अभी तो ये सरकार जो है वो TDP और JDU के आसरे पर चल रही है और उनके सपोर्ट पर चल रही है, यही विपक्ष कहता है ना. तो इस सिचुएशन में क्यों ला रहे हैं? When they had absolute majority, they could have just destroyed federalism.
इसलिए वो ला रहे हैं कि चाइना का घुसपैठ, महंगाई, बेरोजगारी से ध्यान बदलाया जा सके। इलेक्शन कमीशन जब हरियाणा में चुनाव था, डेट बदलना पड़ा, महाराष्ट्र, झारखंड और जम्मू कश्मीर को एक साथ नहीं करा सकता है, तो पूरे भारत को इलेक्शन कमीशन कैसे कराएगा? आप ही बतलाइए, इससे रीजनल इम्बैलेंसमेंट पड़ेगा, क्योंकि ओबीसी सर्वे, सोशियो इकोनॉमिक सर्वे की बात देश में चल रही है, क्योंकि लगता है कि रीजनल पार्टी में ओबीसी फैक्टर डोमिनेट है, तो भाजपा चाहती है, आरएसएस चाहती है कि सिर्फ दो ही पार्टी जिंदा रहे और दूसरे को आवाज नहीं। ये भारत में हर 50 किलोमीटर पे भेष भाषा और खान पान बदलते हैं, हर लोग को आवाज है। माइक्रो माइनॉरिटी जो कम्युनिटी है उसको भी संविधान ने अधिकार दिया बोलने का। प्रधानमंत्री सेंसस नहीं करा पाते हैं, प्रधानमंत्री लाल किला पर चढ़कर महिला सुरक्षा की बात करते हैं, उसी दिन बिल्किस बानो के रेपिस्ट को छोड़ दिया जाता है। प्रधानमंत्री 2020 तक टॉयलेट देने की बात करते थे, घर देने की बात करते थे, जल देने की बात करते थे, वो प्रधानमंत्री से हुआ नहीं। 15 लाख देने की बात करते थे, वो चाइना हर दिन घुसपैठ।
सारे जो मुद्दे हैं जिनका जिक्र आप कर रहे हैं, क्या ये पिछले लोकसभा चुनाव के वक्त नहीं थे?
इसलिए कि
जब एब्सोल्यूट मेजॉरिटी मिली थी, क्या उस वक्त ये चुनाव नहीं थे? क्या उस वक्त ऑपोजिशन चीन का मुद्दा नहीं उठा रहा था और अन्य मुद्दे नहीं उठा रहा था?
हर दिन ये मुद्दा उठेगा। अपोजिशन आज मजबूत है,
तो फिर डिस्ट्रैक्शन का कहां से सवाल? क्योंकि ऑपोजिशन तो लगातार ये मुद्दा उठा ही रहा है।
मैडम, आपने देखा है कि इस देश ने, लोकसभा ने 150 से ज्यादा एमपी को सस्पेंड किया। आपने देखा है कि रेल मंत्री किस तरीके से आपके चैनल पे ब्रीफ कर रहे थे। वही रेल मंत्री से पूछिए कि 50 से ज्यादा घटना जब से वो दोबारा शपथ लिए, 50 से ज्यादा रेल घटना हो गया है।
Siddharth Yadav, Adil Hassan is saying to distract from all these issues. एक second, to distract from all these issues, the cabinet has given a nod to ONOP.
In the past 2 and more than, even before the committee was made, the first time the idea was introduced, how many days of debate have gone into this? What is the distraction? We are doing elections in 2019. The expenditure of the government is 60,000 crores. In 1951, it was 11 crores. If we are here to save thousands of crores of rupees, you don't want to do 5 days of debate, 5 days of talking on that, no suggestions on that. What kind of an opposition is this? What kind of a discussion place is this? This is point number 1. Point number 2, what is an argument that today you are not doing an election together for Jammu Kashmir, Haryana and Maharashtra, so no one nation, one election can happen tomorrow? Today, we don't have a policy of one nation, one election. So how can you compel the election commission to conduct elections for states and assemblies which are not dissolving together for dates which are different? Maharashtra has a different date in November. Haryana and Jammu Kashmir has to happen in October. These are different things. So my only request to the opposition is, you do not and you should not oppose things just for the sake of opposing it. If you want to indulge in a constructive discussion, in a constructive engagement, give your suggestions, go ahead. Those are most welcome. Such wider consultations are happening. More than 75% people who have been consulted in this process have, raised their voice in favor of one nation, one election.
Siddharth Yadav, the fear is if simultaneous elections happen, it will be advantage BJP, it will be advantage the party that is at center, because national issues will gain prominence. Nobody will talk about local issues.
I'll answer that, and I'll just give you two examples. So I was hearing this argument also. They are saying we just want two parties to be there. So are you saying we want the Congress also to flourish and be there? Thank you so much. If this is the democracy that you think we really believe in, and that might also be the case. We want, now the problem here is that the opposition thinks that the people of this country are fools. 5 states already go along with the polls with the national election. Odisha always voted along with the national election. Biju Janata Dal, a state, a regional party was there. They ruled the state for 30 years.
Right.
The people of Odisha were voting for someone different in the center and someone different for the state. So the people of the country are very smart. Do not belittle their intelligence. They know who to vote for.
Siddharth Yadav says that particular argument is demolished because in 2019, the situation was very different from what it is today in 2024, both in Andhra Pradesh and Odisha.
Is that question to me?
Mr. Chaudhary, can you hear me? Go ahead.
Yeah. Swati, basically, this entire issue, let me first begin with this, that Bharatiya Janata Party and Narendra Modi's government is trying to find a solution to a problem that never existed in the first place. And why I say this, the entire argument that we cannot do development work, we need to cut down on our expenditure for elections. But basically, in a case scenario, let me just point out one thing. Suppose in 2029 we go for one nation, one election. A government led by Adityanath forms a government in Uttar Pradesh along with XYZ in the center. Now what happens after 2 years? Yogi Adityanath is ousted because of a no confidence motion. Let's say in 2030. Now what does Kovind report say? That for the remaining part of the tenure of Yogi Adityanath's government, you need to elect a new government out there. So the premise of the election expenses being curbed is completely gone out of the window. That is the first case. Second scenario, suppose an Ajit Pawar happens, or a Shinde happens, or a Jyotiraditya Scindia happens, and the governments are toppled. Then you go for an election for the next part of the same thing. So this is not the case. The main out here is that.
No, but what is happening right now? When the midterm elections happen, in a Ajit Pawar-like scenario that you're talking about, still the tenure is going to be of 5 years. And the Kovind panel says the same thing, that the government will continue for the unexpired term.
No. Swati, you have not read. The report properly. For the remaining part of the tenure, they will be elected. Suppose there is 1 year left for the government. New government will be elected for 1 year only.
I know that. I've read the report, and that's why I'm saying for the unexpired term. So what is the argument that you're presenting?
Yes. Presenting, where is the baseless argument of curbing the election expenses? Most importantly, this is disruption of governance, over centralization of political power. Then most importantly, the national and the regional conflict between the central government and the state government, because always the national issues, like the Pulwama case in 2019 election is an example wherein national issue superseded the regional issues. The smaller regional parties will find themselves in a very survival issues at that point when both the elections are held
No,
simultaneously.
but then in that case,
What
you're
the COVID
casting
report failed to
aspersion on
gauge
you're
is-
casting aspersion on the intelligence
not the
of the
aspersions.
voters. Has it not happened in the past that the Lok Sabha elections have coincided with state assembly elections and the results have been very different? It's not like every single time whoever was at the center was elected in the state as well.
No, Swati, that's not the point out here. The point is that every time an election is held in the country, people like me, the netas of the country, they are held accountable to the public, to the voters. Now you elect a 5-year government and you forget it. There is no issue to recall the government. The Kovind panel should have set up a clause wherein the people can recall the government.
Okay, so those
Or,
concerns
most
can be
importantly,
raised.
in a
Those
state, you have
concerns
got
can be
7 phases
raised,
of election.
and those concerns can be raised with the panel, with the government, that this is what the opposition demands. Whenever that discussion happens in the parliament, but just to outrightly say that this government is out to destroy federalism, is it fair? Let me bring in Deepak Reddy. Deepak Reddy is the national spokesperson of the TDP. Does TDP find merit in this, and that's why TDP is supporting it, or is this because of alliance dharma?
A very good evening. Swati, before I come to TDP's stand, I would like to get into the merits of this whole issue. I mean, here what's important is this step really good for the country or not, is the first point. Is politics more important or the larger interests of the nation more important, is something what has to be answered. If you look at it, there was a lot of work which was done. In 1999, the Law Commission report has given some suggestions. In 2015 and in a subsequent parliamentary committee has suggested certain suggestions. And once we get into this current report, the high-level committee report, it is a quite detailed report with 322 pages, getting into various aspects. And in this report, it says that almost 80% of the people whom they spoke to were okay with this suggestion. So now coming to certain historic facts. If you look at 1971 to 2020, on an average, if you take a 10-year period, there were around 64 elections which took place. And some study which checked that in the last 5 years, there were only 65 days a year where there were no elections in the country. So there was some election going on somewhere or the other. So is this good for the country in the long run is a question to answer. And coming to the Congress stand, Congress leader Kharge has basically said this is a drama without getting into any facts or any merits. Same is the case with most of the opposition people who are talking. They're not talking about, these are the points which are good or these are the points which are bad. So that's what the opposition needs to do. Okay. And another major aspect I would like to point out is, today what they're saying is if the government falls halfway, what happens? Like I was a member of the Legislative Council and I just retired. The practice what we have currently is if a member resigns or he expires, then for the balance of the tenure, he would be elected. This is something which is already being done.
Yes, but then Mr. Kamruzaman Chaudhary will tell you that you have not read the report. You don't understand.
Governments also won't fall.
I tried giving him the same argument. He says...
That's exactly what I'm answering. So for the balance period, so he doesn't understand. For whatever the balance period, the government gets elected. That's why it is a deterrent. It is a deterrent that, such things don't happen. Okay, now coming to the point. Coming to the TDP point.
Mr. Chaudhary, let him respond. I'll come back to you for a counter.
One second. Let me just complete.
Yes.
Let me just complete. So that there is a clear picture. Now coming to the South Indian aspect, the states of Tamil Nadu, the states of Karnataka, Andhra and Telangana, an average MLA today spends anywhere between 40 to 80 crores. Can you believe that? I mean, North India doesn't see this kind of an expenditure. And there are about 5 different type of elections which are going on. This is not good, and the system is not able to control it. We need to come out with something new to curb this kind of practices. So that's why we have to look at it rather than purely talking like some of the irresponsible opposition people.
Okay. Opposition is only politicizing it. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, very quickly. Please rebut.
Now coming to the TDP stand. Swati, do you want me to go out with the TDP stand?
Basically, the point. Now, Wait, let me finish.
TDP has
Let me come in. Basically, the point out here that I wanted to raise was that the election expenses curve was a bogey by the Bharatiya Janata Party and the COVID panel.
Okay.
Yeah, Swati has called me. Let me finish it then. The point out here, one nation, one election is very fine with you because you want to get into the rhetorics of one nation, one language. No problem with that. One language, one nation, one identity, and all these things that you are already planned a lot of way. But the basic point, when the Supreme Court ruled, when the Supreme Court ruled in the case of appointment of election commissioner, why did you have to bring in an ordinance to subvert that? The intention of the Bharatiya Janata Party government out here is suspect.
Okay.
They want
so
to
let me bring in
monopolize the
Vineet
election
Singh.
process in
Let
the
me
country.
bring in Vineet Singh. He's a spokesperson of LJPR. Vineet Singh, today there is an alliance. Tomorrow there may not be an alliance because one does not know what may happen tomorrow in politics. As a regional party, are you not threatened that this is going to end federalism?
Swati, a late good evening to everyone over here. Look, nothing can be more ridiculous what the opposition is pitching in over here, and that includes Chaudhary ji also. And you rightly said that I belong to a regional party. My party has got two status, one in Nagaland, one in Bihar, but we don't have any fear, no qualms, because we understand the benefits of this thing. And you must not forget this thing that wherever we found that there is a problem, my leader Chirag Paswan ji stood for it. And in NDA, it was accepted and it was taken into account for. This same opposition was of this view that Modi government will not be able to do the COVID vaccination. They are not going to open a 50 crore Jan Dhan Yojana. They also spoke about the digitization, but we did that. So please, for God's sake, language, just don't oppose it for the heck of it. If you want to contribute something, please do so. Otherwise, just arrive. No, hang on. Let me finish up, Let me finish up, Swati. It will take just 10 more seconds. Countries like Sweden, Indonesia, Japan, Berlin, Germany, they are not doing things in a wrong way. And this has been there since 1951-52. All our so-called stalwarts and the writer of Indian constitutions were that time there. And they didn't find any demerit and any attack on federalism. So how come we are saying the same thing? And the last thing, they are talking about the wherewithal of our government, our election commission. हिंदी में कहावत है काजी जी अंधेसे क्यों शहर के काजी जी दुबले क्यों शहर के अंधेसे से you don't need to worry about it. That's our duty. We'll manage it.
Okay, don't oppose just for the sake of it. Adil Hasan, don't you think not just the political parties but the people would also rather be happy to hear that this can save some time, this can save some money and the burden on our resources, because that's the allegation often that is leveled कि ये सरकार इसलिए कह रही है क्योंकि वहां चुनाव होने वाला है, क्योंकि यहाँ चुनाव होने वाला है, governance gets impacted.
मैम, ये सरकार को चुनाव से डर है। मोदी जी तो हमेशा चुनाव मोड में रहते हैं। आप देखिए पार्लियामेंट
अच्छा है ना, अभी एक ही बार रहेंगे चुनाव मोड में।
सुन लीजिए, अब वो नहीं रहेंगे, अब वो बैसाखी पे, और नायडू साहब कब कहां चले जाए आपको नहीं पता है। 2019 में कहां चले गए थे? मोदी जी को सबसे भ्रष्ट कह रहे थे, चोर कह रहे थे, इस सरकार को सबसे नालायक सरकार कह रहे थे। आज फिर उनके गोदी में चले गए, फिर नायडू साहब कल कहां चले जाए, तो ये कौन जानता है। और आप
नहीं, ये अकेली एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी नहीं करती है। ये आप अगर अपने आसपास देखेंगे, इंडिया में पॉलिटिकल सिनेरियो देखेंगे आप, तो ये दशकों से चला आ रहा है। तो अलायंस पॉलिटिक्स पर मत जाइए, अलग मोर्चा मत खोलिए, इस पर बोलिए।
मैम, इस देश में रीजनल पार्टी और देश में अलायंस एक सच्चाई है। प्रधानमंत्री से पूछिए, 535 करोड़ उनके सुरक्षा पे खर्च होता है, 10 करोड़ रुपया उनके हर प्रोग्राम पे खर्च होता है। अगर देश का पैसा बचाना है तो अपने प्रोग्राम को इवेंट मैनेजमेंट से निकलकर 10 करोड़ रुपया बताया। चीफ जस्टिस को क्यों
फिर आपको सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को नसीहत देनी पड़ेगी। फिर ये नसीहत आपको सभी पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को देनी पड़ेगी। फिर तमाम पार्टी के एमपीज को जो सुविधाएं मिल रही है वो भी जनता के पॉकेट से जा रहा है, फिर उसमें भी बदलाव करना पड़ेगा। अभी मैं वही तो आपको कह रही हूँ, जो इशू है उस पर बात करिए, अलग अलग मोर्चे मत खोलिए। सिद्धार्थ यादव, विल देयर एवर बी कंसेंसस? विल देयर एवर बी कंसेंसस?
Swati, first I need to respond to Adil Khan ji. Adil Khan ji, जब और प्रधानमंत्री होते थे क्या वो फ्री में चलते थे? वो रिक्शे पे चलते थे? उन पर 1 रुपया का भी खर्चा नहीं होता था। What kind of arguments are these? What kind of arguments are these? Secondly, I did not speak in between. आतंकवाद फैलाइए।
नहीं, एक सेकंड आदिल हसन जी, या तो आप एक कच्चा चिट्ठा लाइए किसने कितना खर्च किया, फिर ये आर्गुमेंट उठाइए, या उनको बोलने दीजिए।
Like a debate terrorist. हाँ, ठीक है, अब आपको सुनना पड़ेगा। ये पहली बात। सेकंड बात, उन्होंने कहा कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट से क्यों हटा दिया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस को क्यों हटा दिया इलेक्शन कमीशन के अपॉइंटमेंट में। जब कांग्रेस थे, आपके चचा की सरकार थी, तब सुप्रीम कोर्ट के चीफ जस्टिस होते थे, तब तो एलओपी भी नहीं होते थे, सिर्फ सरकार तय कर देती थी। हमने पैनल बनाया, उस पैनल में हमने एलओपी को रखा। ये आप लोगों की प्रॉब्लम है। द हिपोक्रेसी एंड द एंटी इंडिया स्टैंड जो आप लोगों का है, उसमें प्रॉब्लम है और कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। इसीलिए आदिल खान जी, whenever you speak about something that concerns the nation at whole, have some sensitivity and have some logic, then say. ठीक है, this is one. Now point number 2. Swati, you asked me कि will there ever be consensus? My point today is consensus will have to be made. The country is also making a consensus, and we have, as a democracy, as a mature democracy, we have come a very long way, taking decisions which have been in favor of our country, and we have to take that. Probably there was no consensus in Article 370. Probably a lot of people opposed it, but we had to, as a country, pass that. Probably people didn't want Ram Mandir. That had to happen. Probably people didn't want to do
Riju Datta, in the longer run, this is going to benefit the country. That's the argument Siddharth Yadav is presenting. Respond to it, because ultimately it will all be decided on the floor of the House. In the Parliament, every party will get an opportunity to present its view.
See, my problem with the BJP is their only policy is lie and lie some more. I will draw the attention of you, Swati, and your viewers on this show that in this year, March, the Election Commission said that the Jammu Kashmir elections cannot be held along with the Lok Sabha elections because we have inadequate personnel. In this year, March, and in September, they are saying पूरे देश में एक election होगा. कितना झूठ बोलेंगे? They have used an ex-president and made him the head of a committee. Has it ever happened in independent India? They have insulted the post of a president.
Okay.
Why Maharashtra election is not happening? Because the second installment of Ladli Behna is supposed to come in October. इनको election करवाना है और यहाँ पर बड़ी-बड़ी बातें कर रहे हैं. I am telling you, by the time this policy, this absolutely absurd policy will actually come into force, our non-biological prime minister will be 150 years. Our non-biological prime minister will be 150 years before this policy is implemented in this country.
One second.
It's an absurd policy to do prime time debates.
Is your problem with BJP or is your problem with One Nation, One Poll? Are you not willing to look at the merits?
Look. There are no merits.
Okay, there are no merits.
Impossible thing to say. There are no merits. I'm telling you, what happened to the women reservation bill? It was passed. It was passed unanimously. When will it be?
Okay, I have to wrap up, but very quickly, Deepak Reddy, there are no merits at all according to Riju Datta. It doesn't matter if it's going to save a little bit of time, money, and resources. Last word to you. I have to wrap up.
Yeah. Swati, I need to clarify this because Mr. Adil and a few people are casting aspersions on our leader Chandrababu Naidu ji. There were objections about this earlier, but now we have gone into the details and it has been clear that it is in the larger national interest. And Chandrababu Naidu ji and Lokesh ji are saying that the national interest comes first and then
so you're saying
the
this is not
regionalism.
just coalition
So
dharma,
we are sacrificing ourselves to some extent.
You've actually looked at the merits. Okay. All right, gentlemen, I have to wrap up. Siddharth Yadav, Kamruzaman Chaudhary will continue to be with us. Rest of the guests, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your time.